My sermon today is keep calm and be profound. And so I'd like to just say a short prayer before I get into that topic. Please join me in prayer. Good morning, dearest Heavenly Parent. Thank you for allowing us as a community, the Central London Heavenly Parent Holy Community, to gather from our homes and from, Father, wherever we are in the world, to be able to come and spend this time in learning and in sharing. Father, we are, I'm sure, facing all kinds of challenges, big and small, and yet we must find a way to go forward and to do so in a way that actually allows you to be with us and, more importantly, to work through us. So I pray that through today's sermon and this topic of keeping calm and being profound, we can find an insight and a way to do exactly that. I pray and report these things in my name, Ajay Rai, husband and father of the blessed central family, Ajay. Okay, so I'm going to once again share something with you. And it's a poem. So I'm sure you're familiar with this poem, but I'd like to read it to you. So Rudyard Kipling, the poet who was born in India, and I'm sure that experience really molded his ideas and the inspiration. And you find that in his stories and in this poem. So if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. That poem came to me when I was thinking about this topic. And as I was reading it yesterday, it also reminded me of True Father's poem, Crown of Glory, and this idea of walking a path, and not just walking a path, but in other words, how to win in life, how to live that life, how to be a true man or a true woman, no matter what obstacles come your way in your path. In Hinduism, there is the story of Rama, the Ramayana, and that is literally the path of being a true man. In that story, all kinds of things happen, all kinds of obstacles come in the way of Lord Ram, and he has to essentially overcome and find a way of keeping true in everything that he does. And in a similar way, like in the Crown of Glory, there is also this idea of no matter what happens, even if you're betrayed and people, yeah, tell lies about you, put you down, but still finding it within yourself to keep on going, to keep on moving. And in the end, and especially one thing that they both share, this idea of maintaining some kind of humility as you go through this. So no matter, what you become, and if you become, a prince or a king, or you become whatever, a layman, a teacher, someone who perhaps doesn't get that kind of profile or recognition, but nevertheless, you win in life because of the way you led your life, because of the choices you made and how you handle those situations. So for me, that is a good starting point to talk about this idea of how we can keep calm, and yet, even though we are living with a certain humility, actually it can be incredibly profound. And the impact that we can have on the people around us, your family, your siblings, your neighbors, and the wider community, can actually be incredibly profound, even more than we can actually imagine. So another inspiration I wanted to share with you for this is an elderly Japanese lady. Her name is Suroko Hanazawa. And in her 70s, she decided she was going to travel out into the world. And in particular, actually, she went to Germany. And all she wanted to do was serve tea. So I'm sure we're all familiar, especially in our community, with the Japanese tea ceremony, right? And this idea of doing the tea ceremony. And we've all probably attended it in some way or another. But this 70-year-old woman decided to head out to Germany and to find random people. She wanted to meet people of all kinds of background. Like in one case, she wanted to meet a mother who's got a big family, and just have an opportunity to serve people like this tea. And she even went into like a vineyard where there were people working, like seasonal workers from Poland. And again, just wanted to sit down with them in the field and just took this time to prepare a nice cup of tea. Now, that's why when I sent the message on WhatsApp, I kind of, in kind of jest, I mentioned like, oh, please bring your cup of tea or your coffee. And the reason for that is because I wanted us just to reflect upon how is it that we do these everyday things. Like when you make your cup of tea or your coffee or whatever your hot beverage of choice is, what do you put into it? How do you go about it? What is it that you do that when you prepare, even just the simple things, that creates an opportunity for you to create calm, both within yourself and then the people around you? So let's have a look at what this elderly lady, Siroka, does. I'm going to show you just the opening of a little documentary from her life.
千葉県東金市の街中にうっそうとした木々に囲まれた一軒家があります。ここに住んでもう40年。私は70歳になります。この庭は不思議な庭でね、小鳥たちが種をぎょうさん運んで自然にできた庭なんです。植物ってね、これほどの哲学者はいないんじゃない？根っこも一つも喧嘩しないでこんがらがってないで相談し合ってよけ合ってちゃんとこんなに秩序の正しい世界ってないんじゃないだろうか。
A longtime practitioner of the Japanese way of tea, Tsuruko Hanzawa also surrounds herself with plants and flowers. She makes her living holding tea ceremonies called chaji. They are formal tea parties in which guests are served 9 dishes, and a finale of rich green tea with Japanese sweets. To properly enjoy the thick, bitter green tea, the host offers a meal to line the stomach. Tsuruko has hosted over 1,000 chaji to date. Today, Tsuruko is setting out on a rather unconventional road trip. With her pots and pans and tea utensils, she will find a destination and hail down people she meets along the way there. Then entertain them with a chaji.
これ茶飯釜って言ってね。
いやこういうことがな、そうやな、会に出会ったいうことが、
そうやな。
な一期一会本当にな、そう。
どんな方にも同じ心で楽しい無心な茶が立てられるかどうか、そういう模索の旅ですね。
Okay, so that was just the opening sequence. I wanted to end there when she says, I want to do this with a quiet mind. And here we go. I can see everybody now, gallery view. So yeah, she mentions this idea. I want to be able to serve or attend and go out into the world, but keep a quiet mind. And the reason that's so important for her is actually when she was very, very little, she survived Hiroshima together with her mother. And she got separated and then eventually found her mother and her aunt. But then her mother actually abandoned her and said she can't take care of her. So she grew up with some other relatives and went through life, eventually, got married, had 2 kids. And then at the age of 40, decided that she wanted to learn this way of the tea ceremony. And in particular, this Japanese idea of omonatashi, of like serving. This idea is basically attending to someone's needs. How can you attend to someone's needs, but at the same time not be servile, not be like, just a servant, but you're very attentive to the other person. And you can see that when you watch her giving the tea ceremony, she's always trying to be attentive. And you can imagine, like, she comes with all this amazing food because she's a chef and she prepares all of these things and serves. And yet she's always expressing her gratitude to her guest. Thank you to my guest for giving me this opportunity to attend to your needs and to serve. And of course, she makes the tea. And like you see how when they make the matcha tea, the green tea, they serve it, and then they turn the bowl, and then of course the person is able to taste it. And whether it's bitter or sweet, even she's thinking about how have you received it, how do you experience it. So like I said, whilst she's doing all these things, she's thinking about keeping a quiet mind. And even the day before preparing all these ingredients, she's very much aware of her own state of mind. How can I keep a quiet mind as I prepare and I attend? And the reason is because at the very end, I watched the story of her life. And this is not really giving it away, but it all comes back to her past, all comes back to her mother and her relationship with her mother. And, trying to keep this sense of like her belonging. So sometimes she finds herself, even after so many years, so basically she's been serving for 36 years. So she's 76, nearly 77, the same age as True Mother, and she's been going out, and still sometimes she finds it difficult to keep a quiet mind. So at the very, at the very end, she's able to serve this German family. But she realizes when she goes for reflection afterwards, she breaks down in tears because she feels like I wasn't able to keep a quiet mind. So even after 36 years of going out into the world, serving people by making tea and trying to keep a quiet mind, it's still not always possible. It's still, so in other words, the way of even learning the tea ceremony is a long road, even though it seems like it's a kind of simple, outwardly, simple thing. But actually, internally, it's a long road in terms of, her quest and this journey to find peace within herself. But in doing it, the way she's doing that is by going out to give peace to others. So, and I really think, I'm more and more inspired by elder sisters like this. If I think of people like Anne, if I think of people like, recently I was spending time in Cleve House, people like Masako Cello. Masako, if you know her from Wales, she's actually the same age as True Mother. And if I think about Masako, she's up and about, she's like preparing, the bed and breakfast, she's making the beds. And when I look at her, then I think, wow, can I imagine like True Mother, also, at her age, and I know with particularly her condition, her knees, her eyesight, they're not particularly good. Her health is not great. But still, she's trying to do like these big rallies, right? She has these grand goals of reaching billions of people. And that's a very big thing. That's a grand thing. And yet then you can also do something like this sister, right? You can say, I just want to go out and serve people tea. This is the only thing I can do. It's not this grand, big thing. It's not this like, reaching politicians and reaching, heads of state or whatever it may be. All I can do is go into the world, like wherever, and go on this adventure. And through serving people, I can hopefully, bring that bit of peace. So for me, the idea of keeping calm, of trying to attain this quiet mind, actually allows us to be profound. Actually allows us to then, in whatever we do, even how you dress, how you put on your clothes. So, I've been thinking about this and the things I do. So it's like even coming here today, like, I'm sitting here, I'm literally hundreds of miles away, but still I felt like I wanted to prepare, I'm gonna, put my clothes. I've even put on my smart shoes, just because like this, like Tsuruko, when she goes out to serve tea, she puts on a full kimono. You know how that's actually quite a difficult thing to put together, even more than like an Indian sari. It's a lot of effort to put on a kimono. But when she goes out, she puts on the full dress and she goes out to serve in this way because she wants to, offer that. I want to offer this to the people that I meet. And like I said, the people that she meets are very humble people, like working in the fields. She's not attending, like VIPs. She wants to meet these people. So I think that's a great example for all of us in terms of, finding something that we can do just to go out. But it's all about that quiet mind within ourselves. It's all about how then that extends to the people that we meet. So as a holy community, my I guess, not challenge, but my request to all of us is to find, the things that you can do, the everyday things which are, the things that you can make holy. Just like the tea ceremony, just like when she makes that tea, it's a holy kind of ceremony, right? She prepares. Internally, she prepares. She's spending a lot of time just in meditation, thinking about what she's going to be doing, and then prepares it and makes it. So, I'm sure there are things that we do that are just the everyday things, but you can turn the everyday into something holy, something that you invest your mind, your heart, and then your energy into offering that in some way of attending to others, serving others. But actually, of course, it benefits you ultimately too. Ultimately, you find peace within yourself. Ultimately, you find that sense of calm. And from that comes the profound. The profundity of something that seems so simple then emerges. And then you start to pay attention, like you hear from her, like she's paying attention even to the way the plants are growing around her. You start to see and realize and actually appreciate a lot of more what's going on around you because you're living in that certain way, in a way that's cultivating your holiness, your holy mind, and the way that you want to then express that in everything we do. So, of course, we can pray, and we know prayer is like a report. For me, prayer is much, much more these days just about accountability. It's not me giving God my wish list. God, I'd like this and I'd like that. I stopped praying like that years ago. For me, my prayer is always now just a report, like, you know, like Father kind of, you know, he asked us to think about how we can just report. So sometimes when I pray, I'm just being accountable. I'm not necessarily finding myself, you know, feeling or being holy. I report, and then it's my way of saying, okay, this is what I've achieved, this is what I've accomplished, this is where I'm at, and therefore I know this is where I need to go. I still have a way to go. But it's through the everyday things, it's through these little things that we can actually be holy. It's in the small things as well as the big things, perhaps. It's not just a big event, in other words. It's not just like the next rally of hope on the 27th of, you know, September, or some other providential event. Those are good, you know, kind of stepping stones for us. They're good, you know, kind of, I guess, things that we can prepare for. But it's actually in the everyday, it's in the small things that I think, you know, we can find our holiness. And it is through meditating on those things. And meditating is just simply, you know, putting your mind on something. You know, some people just meditate on making money. I mean, they're thinking about getting rich. It's not necessarily what we would normally think of as meditating, but because they're always thinking about that, then that's their meditation. They're constantly thinking about money, 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 money. I need more money, or I need to get whatever it is. And so even if we're not proactively thinking about it, actually we do meditate, we do think about something all the time. So the point is how to then be aware of your thoughts, you know, to then, you know, and I think doing these simple things, doing something that is kind of methodical, like pouring in the water, putting in your one sugar, giving it a stir. These are simple things, they're methodical things, but actually it helps you to quiet the mind. It's a bit like when people say, you know, if your brain is scattered and you can't sleep or whatever, often people say focus on your breathing, right? Just come back to your breathing. And when you come back to your breathing, it somehow helps to center you. But even then, you can, after just a few minutes, you can already start to, you know, basically go off into randomness. Your mind again just spirals out into all kinds of directions. So again, sometimes just thinking the thought is not enough, but doing the action, finding a way that allows you to then manifest that in something that gives you then another tool in your toolbox to quiet the mind, to not allow yourself to get out of control, in other words. So if you're like me, in very stressful, high pressure situations, I'm actually quite calm. I think that's why I do the things that I do when there's like, you know, a lot of people involved, or there's, you know, a lot of practical things involved. I'm actually quite calm in those situations. And then I've been reflecting that sometimes in the normal kind of everyday situation, I can allow myself to get out of control. So you might be completely opposite to me. You might be the person who's really calm, you know, and collected, you know, in situations where, you know, you're with your everyday, you know, friends and family and the people that, you know, and you can maintain your calmness. But perhaps when you go out and you're doing something somewhere new, you find that stressful, you find it, you know, the anxiety builds up, you're not confident or whatever it is. And that can, you know, become then a situation where you get out of control, so to speak. I'm the kind of opposite person. So again, whatever it is, you know, it's being aware of that and then thinking, okay, how do I recognize that?